Hi GCC Chem 107 students. This is our last video in Chapter 8 on drugs. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention homeopathy to you. I want you to understand, homeopathy is not natural remedies. Natural remedies are like eating oyster mushrooms to help lower cholesterol, or taking vitamin C to help you with a cold. Those natural remedies have some scientific value. There have been studies on them. Now, homeopathy is water-based. It's a system of alternative medicine, I guess we could say, based on pseudoscience, not real data, and no scientific results. Homeopathic solutions will not treat any illness. In fact, large-scale studies have shown that homeopathy is no more effective than a placebo. Homeopathy has been described as unethical because it discourages the use of real treatments. The World Health Organization has warned against using homeopathy to treat any severe disease. Homeopathic solutions are water. So they claim to take an original solution with an active ingredient, but they dilute it up to 1 trillion times to make the homeopathic solution. The likelihood of even having one molecule of drug in your bottle is about 0. It is often believed by homeopaths that the more dilute the solution is, the more potent it is, which is actually the exact opposite. So that's nonsense according to professional chemists like myself. So homeopathy solutions, again, are just water. So if you want to buy a bottle of water for 20 bucks that's this big and take it as a drug, that's exactly what you're doing. What about putting drugs in our water? Well, drugs, pharmaceuticals, were found in 24 major cities' water supply. So they tested drinking water and sure enough, there's drug residues in them. How is that possible? Well, drugs reach our water supply by being flushed down the toilet, unused. So people that have leftover drugs are flushing them down the toilet. Also, some drugs pass through our urine and feces when they're not absorbed completely by the body. Some of the pharmaceuticals found in the city's water supplies were antibiotics, which we don't need more of, birth control, hormones, mood stabilizers, and other. So these are just some examples of what's been found in major cities' water supply. Now the levels are very low, measured in like ppb, parts per billion, and even ppt, parts per trillion. But governments cannot say if they're low enough to discount any harmful effects. We need more studies. Low levels of pharmaceuticals in the water supply have been a concern for decades or longer, says one PhD. Concerns rose when fish in the Potomac River were found to have both male and female organs. Yeek. At first, scientists looked at contraceptives in the water. So there was birth control being found in the water, yes. But recently, they've expanded it to include other pharmaceuticals as well. Boiling water doesn't solve the problem. You can't boil water and get rid of the drugs. And forget bottled water as a way to escape this, because they're also in bottled water. 25%, in fact, of bottled water is actually just tap water. So how are you supposed to dispose of your drugs? Because you're not supposed to flush them down the toilet. At this point, scientists are unsure if there's any harmful effects from drinking tap water, generally speaking, of course. But it is an area of concern, and studies continue on this topic at the EPA and other labs. So what do you do with your unused drugs, leftover drugs, drugs that have expired? Well, they need to be disposed of by preferably grinding them up, but then putting them either in pill form or whatever, or if you can grind them up, that's great, with coffee grounds in a closed container or maybe a Ziploc bag. Put that container in the trash. Do not flush your drugs down the toilet. Do not pour them down the drain. Do not put them in our water supply. Please put them with coffee grounds and throw them away. Let's talk a little bit about the FDA approval process. That is the Food and Drug Administration. The current process to get a drug to market is very lengthy and expensive in the United States. First, the project is initiated, followed by laboratory and animal studies for 1 to 2 years. Animal studies are very expensive. You have cages, you have to clean up after the animals because they poop and pee. You have body parts, so you have bodily fluids. The animals are infected, and the animals aren't real happy about it either. So there's a lot of problems with animal studies. After that, then you have to fill out a drug application with the FDA. And you can go to phase 1 of clinical studies and follow up with a pharmacological profile for a year using up to about 80 people. So clinical studies means we're going to try them on people now. Phase 2, if you pass phase 1 with no problems. Phase 2 of clinical studies tests for the efficacy for about 2 years using up to 300 people. If you pass that, then you can go to phase 3 of clinical studies, which comes with extensive clinical trials for 3 years with up to 3,000 people. Then you file a new drug application with the FDA. Finally, the FDA has to study and approve this drug, and it takes about 3 years. So that's 10 to 11 years. Countless animal bodies and people trials. It's a little scary, and it does take forever. So is there a better way? Well, there is some controversy with the animal testing portion. So a lot of chemists believe the animal testing portion of the FDA process is really not applicable to people and wasteful, as humans are not mice or dogs. Errors can occur, such as the Vioxx fiasco. Merck made about $1 billion a year selling Vioxx, but the next year in 2000 it was seen to increase chance of heart attack. It had to be withdrawn from the market finally in 2004. Thousands of lawsuits followed. Scientists would like to prevent drug failures like this despite the animal testing, because Vioxx went through animal testing just fine. Listen to this statement. Testing chemicals on animals for human toxicity should be greatly reduced and can potentially be eliminated in favor of experimenting on cells, cell lines, or cellular components. That's from the National Research Council report released back in June of 2007. So what can we replace the animal tests with? Well, there are new chips that are made up of human cells, and they react like a human would to the drug. So in 2009, the European Union actually banned a lot of animal tests and is using biochips like DataChip and MetaChip. These new biochips hold hundreds of tiny white dots loaded with human cell cultures and enzymes. Scientists hope the chips can do away with the need to use animals to detect new blockbuster drugs, cosmetics, and wrinkle creams. So we won't have to have the expense of having the animals in the cages and the cleanup and all the problems with the animals. The biochips are faster, cheaper, and use real human cells, not animal cells. Why not experiment with real human cells? It takes about 800 million in 14 years to develop a drug and get the FDA approval, to all said and told. The Hurel chip could save about $2 million in years of time, said Forbes magazine way back in 2005. Greener chemistry. This is pretty important. The chemical industry, at least the American Chemical Society that I belong to, and I go to their national meetings every year, is really pushing to make chemistry more green, meaning environmentally friendly. Drug manufacturers and chemists all over the world are trying to clean up or green up their synthesis of pharmaceuticals. Going green means the drug manufacturing process will produce little to no side products, little to no waste, have little to no usage of toxic chemicals, and little to no solvent. So we're trying to make it safer for the people producing the drugs, safer for the people taking the drugs, and cleaner for the environment. After research, the current way to make ibuprofen, which is Advil, is now green. The previous method required 6 steps, used lots of solvent, and generated lots of waste. Now ibuprofen is made in 3 steps with hardly any solvent or waste. All the starting material is recovered. The BHC company was awarded the 1997 Presidential Green Chemistry Award for this innovation in green chemistry. Codexis, the winner of the 1996 award of green chemistry, created a new way to make Lipitor, which increased the yield of it, had less byproducts, less waste, and less solvents, which increases worker safety. So these are all great things. that chemists are doing trying to make pharmaceuticals more green. And that's actually how we're going to end our chapter on drugs. So thanks for sticking with me. Chapter 8 is finished. Good luck. See you later, GCC.